Well, hey, everybody, this is Larry Little.
And I'm Melissa Jackson.
And you are listening to RelationShifts, and we're so glad you are. Welcome.
Mm-hmm. We have been talking about crossing generational lines, and we've had such good conversation about this content that is so thought-provoking, because what we think creates those gaps in our relationships across the generations, we've learned that it's very different than what we actually think.
Yeah, it really is. It's been good for me to go back through as we've done this series, and it's it's challenging, Melissa. Mm-hmm. It's great to keep it in front of us as we think about our relationships that cross generational time spans, and it's something I think that's applicable to all of us. I think we all need to be reminded and given the hope that we do have a choice of connecting with those from other generations.
So you need this book. We want you to get this book. We think it's going to be so helpful for you. You can get it at eaglecenterforleadership.com, and you can also get it on Amazon. It's a good, easy read, Larry. Thank you for making this an everyday language, so that we can take it, we can read it, we can digest it, and we can do something with it.
Well, it's an honor, and once again, it was a team effort. What an incredible team we have, Melissa, and they worked so hard on this. We were talking just the other day with Robin, our producer. I think this thing has been in the works, well over a year, from concept to all the editing and polishing and all the things that need to be done to make it presentable. So this is really it's kind of like you take a deep breath. It's been over a year in the making.
Good things take time.
So I like it. Well, we have talked about in our other episodes that there's a myth around generations. That is, the myth is that we can't connect, we can't engage, we can't understand, we can't relate to people of different ages from different generations. That's just not true. That's a myth. We've talked about how we need to become learners, and we use that word learn to give some tools to help us to begin to cross those lines. We've talked about what to do when those generations collide, and what happens when we do have disagreements, and how can we have that recipe for healthy conflict. And so as we wrap this up, here we are, Melissa, on number 4. We're gonna wrap it, and we're gonna talk about habits that we have that actually hurt our relationships, not only across generational lines, but I think in life in general.
I think this is very poignant, because we're always going to hurt someone in our relationships. There's going to be hurt on some level, because we're human and we have emotions and feelings.
Right.
And so whether it's a high level, misunderstanding, or it's some kind of, issue that's very painful, there's always going to be that. And so here is the hope that you've given us, that we can do something with that. There are things that we can control, that we can do, so that we can repair that. We can move past that. We're going to talk about that in some steps today. Some very practical steps.
Well, you said the word right, practical steps. So when these habits cause pain, when they cause hurt, there are some things that we can do. We can first of all recognize that we do hurt. If what you just said, we hurt each other, and we need to recognize that we may have some patterns in our own life, and what those are. What are those patterns, and then learn how to evaluate. Bottom line, what is that opportunity cost? Is it worth keeping that habit? Do I want to keep it, or do I want to change it? And I think that's important. And if I choose to do that, what does that look like? How do I replace? How do I kind of interpret that to, okay, I want to replace this habit. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then to the secret, Melissa, the secret is to the sauce. We'll talk about it, but it is bringing other people into the process.
Your habits, you do them without even thinking. I was driving in the other day, and I had several things on my mind, and maybe you find yourself doing this at times. And so, I I forgot I was going to this place, not this place, and so I'm driving and I realize it and I'm going, wait a minute, I got to turn around. I'm just so used to the same, path, driving in this same way. And so there are habits that we do without even thinking. Let's give some stats here. So here is one. This is from Duke University, and it says 45% of daily actions are driven by habits, and it's not conscious decision making.
So, and I want to circle back because it goes right with this stat. Relationships, they're not destroyed or hurt or damaged mainly because of just one moment. They're not lost, if you will. You don't lose a whole relationship generally because of one moment.
That's right.
You lose them because of patterns that build up over time.
Yeah,
now, there are exceptions to that rule, but most of the time, it's our acts. That's right. It's our actions on a daily basis. That habit that we do, that's what generally destroys relationships. So 45% of our daily actions are habits. Wow. I mean, I think that stat's incredible. Also, this is an interesting stat from the American Psychological Association. Says that individuals who actively practice behavior change, who they have a strategy and they practice it, they see up to 40% improvement. Now, that sounds like a lot, but go down to another stat. If you add on to that, the American Society of Training and Development says people who share their goals, if I want to replace a habit and I share it with you, I move from 40% up to 65%. I'm 65% more likely to achieve them. That sounds pretty good.
That sounds better.
Sounds better.
Yeah.
But wait, there's more. There's more. If I allow you to engage in accountability of holding me accountable, in other words, not that I just share my intent, but I say, Melissa, I'm going to allow you to hold me accountable for this change, this replacing of this habit, 95% improvement.
Wow.
95% with a regular accountability.
Very strong stat.
How about that?
Very strong stat.
So don't tell me we can't change our habits, right? We can.
Wow. So I've got to recognize I have this habit. I've got to bring others in and make them aware. And then I've got to allow them to hold me accountable by conversation or engagement, interaction. And when that takes place, then I really I'm set up to really change a habit.
100%. So if we dig into that just a little bit, so how do we do that? How do we achieve that? And there are some things that the good news is there are some things we can do. The bad news is it takes work and effort. It's not, don't hear us say that, hey, this is easy. You can, it's just no problem. You can, no. Habits, they take a long time to form. And they take a long time to change. They take a long time to change. And notice here, we're not talking about stopping a habit. Speak to that just a minute.
Well, before I even do that, I was wondering, let's talk about a habit real quick. What is a habit that you have that maybe you do without thinking? What's a habit that you have? So,
I mean, I have lots of habits, some good, some not so good, but you try to consistently be aware. But it took me a long time to develop this habit of every morning, 5 days a week, I get up and I walk upstairs and I work out. And I have maintained that ritual for, 15 years, maybe, a long time, maybe longer. But I developed this habit by being consistent to every morning go up and work out. My habit around that is before I go up and work out, I get a glass of water and I fill it up. I believe in drinking a glass of water before I eat or drink anything else in the morning. And it's crazy that even when I am traveling or when I'm, somewhere that's, maybe doesn't have a large 20-ounce glass of water, my habit kicks in. And that habit, by the way, is 7 days a week. So work out 5, drink the water 7 days a week. But if I forget, if I'm someplace where I can't get it, I don't forget it. It's difficult. If I'm someplace where I can't do my little workout, my little stretching, it's difficult, Melissa. It's like, what am I going to do? I can't, and I know cognitively if I miss my water one day, I miss my water. but it doesn't feel that way to me. It's hard. It's like, I need some water. I'm going to be in trouble.
That's such a great habit. Such a great habit. So we're going to get to that question, go back to that question that you have, how do we stop a habit? And we can't, most of us can't just stop it. Most of us can't just, cut it off, stop something. And, our brain speaks to that too, just the way our brain works, the neural pathways, all those things. So we can change and adjust things. And there's going to be the key. So habits, they line up with this intention, right? So habits, we have to have a plan and an action in order to really to change them, to adjust them.
Yeah, we have to know it first. We have to be aware of it. We'll talk about the three things we need to do. And as we're just talking, I'll tell you a funny habit that I had and
had. Okay.
I've replaced it, and I'll tell you what. So I told you I work out every morning, and I get up early and I go upstairs. Well, my wife is not an early riser. She doesn't do well in the morning and as much. But I would get up and I'd take our pup out, and then I would be headed upstairs. I'd be leaving our bedroom to go upstairs to work out, and as I'd get to the door, I would just say, hey, do you need anything? Because I'm going up. I'm just in my mind. I'm thinking it became a habit. When I would get out of bed, I'd go to the door as I was leaving. Do you need anything? Thinking I was doing her a favor that, hey, cut the air down, cut it up, bring me, I don't know, whatever. I thought I was doing her a favor. So one morning, I did that over and over. It became a habit. So one morning she goes, yes. What I need is for you to stop asking me what I need at 6:00 in the morning when I'm trying to sleep. I got tickled and I just started laughing, and I said, okay, you have a deal. So I replaced that in my mind with being quiet when I leave. And I stop talking.
Don't talk in the
I
morning.
Replaced it. I just okay, I can do this. And my mind is okay, quiet.
I can identify with that a little bit. So.
Oh, funny story. But
I love it.
Back to the thing about changing our habits. The first thing we need to do is to see it. We need to be self-aware.
So let's talk about that. How do we change? So in order to see it, we've got to have a desire for it, right?
Right.
And sometimes that comes at the opportunity of others to tell us, or others to make us aware, or others to help us be able to understand that, hey, here's something that needs adjustment. So we got to see it and have a desire around it. None of us, if the desire is not there, we're not going to be able to do the next step, the next work, the next pieces in order to replace it. So we got to have that good old desire.
Yeah, we do. We have to. Well, we the desire to realize that I'm doing something to hurt someone. That desire says, hey, I want to be self-aware. I want to know this, and then there's what we talked about earlier. The second thing is we do have to decide: is it worth it? And quite frankly, some things are worth changing. Some things are not. Let's be honest. This isn't about just saying change everything in your life. No, it's about being self-aware and knowing that I have this habit. Then the question is it hurting someone? And then the question is it worth changing? Well,
there's an opportunity cost involved, and you've got to be able to reflect on that and be mindful of what is it doing to those that you care about.
Yep.
And then, I mean, that comes back to what it's doing to you too.
Yep.
Is it blocking you from having good or better relationships? So that opportunity cost is valuable to slow down and go, you know what, there's some oomph behind the desire, because what is this actually doing? How's this actually impacting my ability to care, my ability to connect, my ability to have a better relationship?
So many times, Melissa, that's exactly right. We don't stop to say, what is this habit costing me? We just continue. We don't really stop to look at that opportunity cost to say, is it worth stop? Is it hurting someone? Is it hurting this part? And is it worth changing and replacing. Just that one conversation really is, it's helpful and it's incredibly healthy. Not that we should change all of our, but we should intentionally choose whether or not we're changing our habits.
Well, it's that piece of we're able to, if we're in this a healthy relationship that we want to be in, we sharpen each other.
Right.
We make each other better.
Right.
We make each other stronger. And so, there's always going to be an opportunity to learn and grow a relationship deeper. Part of this next piece of what we're saying is to really change habits. It's not about stopping. It's not about just putting the brakes on and not doing whatever is creating, that pattern of behavior. There's a little secret. There's something that we need to know that is important for us to do because of the way we're wired, because we're humans.
That's exactly right. We don't stop a habit, we replace it. And that's and what does that look like?
Well, hold up for 1 second there.
Okay.
So let's not run past that, because replace, speak to that for just a moment. We don't stop, we replace a habit.
Right.
We don't stop, we replace. So
that's
just
right.
Get a little deeper in that for just one moment.
We think we can break a habit by just stopping. I'm just going to stop. And that rarely works. Our minds neurologically aren't hardwired that way. Once we develop a pattern in our mind, we can say all day long, I'm just going to stop, but we can't rewire that unless we have a replacement, unless we have another action. There has to be an action to replace the habit neurologically to make us successful. So it's not about I'm going to stop. It's about I'm going to replace. And it may be that I'm going to replace it with a different way of thinking. I'm going to replace it with a different behavior. I'm going to replace asking a question, do you need anything, with being quiet, with choosing my action is going to be different. And my why behind that, understanding that is different. So it's about having just a fundamental understanding about habits. We don't stop or break habits without replacing them with something. It's why so many times we say we're going to stop a habit only to pick up one that's worse.
That's a great point. And my mind was going there as you were talking, that, if we're stopping something too, we are, what do we do next? What do we do with that? If we have an opportunity to replace it, then it brings some control to us.
Correct.
Because we can do something different.
Correct.
We can choose something different. Now we can choose something that's a behavior that's not good as well, to replace it with. But it gives us an opportunity. It's like a crossroads, in a decision, in an awareness piece where I'm at the place where now I get to decide, I get to make some choices, and I get to have some things within my control. So if I'm hurting someone, I get to make some choices at this point.
Well, you're talking about intentionality. We get to be intentional about what we replace it with. Otherwise, we'll slip it into something, and it may not be. It may be worse than what we're doing. It may not be healthy. And, so we go back to say, okay, what does that look like? Guys, tell us, come on, put it in practical application. Well, here's what replacing looks like. Instead of interrupting, if you have a habit of interrupting someone in a relationship, you interrupt me, or you won't let me finish my sentence. Instead of doing that, replace it by becoming a question asker. Just replace it by saying, I'm going to work in my mind. Instead of interrupting you, I'm going to stop. And I'm going to ask a question to let you answer. Instead of being defensive, you accuse me. You always say this about me. You always say this. You're always this or that. Instead of doing that, stop and go, help me to understand why you said that. Help me to understand what was going on there behind. So now I'm becoming curious, and now I'm becoming, instead of defensive, I'm changing that habit. That habit of allowing it to, stress me out, to go, wait, instead of becoming defensive, I'm going to change it with help me to understand. I'm going to ask, help me to understand. I'm going to inquire. I'm going to be curious. Instead of withdrawing from the conversation because I'm avoidant, because I'm anxious, because I don't like intensity. I don't like the tenseness of it. So I'm just going to withdraw. I'm going to avoid it. I'm going to have that avoidant kind of thing. Instead of doing that, I might say, you know what? I need a minute. I'm going to back up for a minute, but I'm going to come back to this. So now I still need a minute to kind of get my emotional, stuff together. So I'm going to, I need some time, but I will come back to this conversation. And I've exchanged a withdrawing avoidant habit with a habit that says, I need time to reframe, to think about it, then I'll come back. So I've grown a muscle, choosing to grow a muscle by developing that new habit.
You said exchange, to replace, to exchange it for something else. So powerful steps, much easier said than done. And the last piece here,
the most powerful one,
yes, is that accountability piece. It's where you truly, you allow others in order to help you. And that is difficult. It's a difficult thing. I think about in the counseling world, AA, all where it becomes difficult. There's structure around allowing others to come in, and it works if you allow others to come in and kind of help you and hold you accountable, and where you can encourage, you can encourage that, you can allow for that, you can put yourself in a learner mode.
Well,
you can allow yourself to learn and to exchange and try something different.
You're just so right. I mean, this piece that you just talked about, bringing others into the equation, this is a secret sauce. And it really, when this happens, it's when you take, I want to break a habit. I have a good intention. I have a good, I want, my desire is there. I want to. You take all of that good intention and you turn it into execution. You turn it into transformation. You turn it into action. When other people,
it's hard.
It's hard.
Not easy.
But when you bring other people in, it really propels you to that action. If you will humble yourself to allow people to speak into your life, to hold you accountable, to replace a habit that's hurting someone else, you will be so glad that you did. It is hard. It is counterintuitive to our psyche. It's counterintuitive to what we've been taught. We want to put up walls. We want to protect ourselves. We don't want to let people hold us accountable. But it's a choice we make to allow someone to call us out when they see that habit or when that habit presents itself. So it's very powerful and it really works. So imagine if you allowed someone from another generation to cross that line. If you cross the line to them and say, hey, I need your wisdom here, regardless of their age. It could be a boomer talking to a Zer. It could be an Xer talking to a millennial, whatever. But cross that line and say, I feel like my habit has hurt our relationship. And I want to ask you to help me to be accountable. I'm going to give you that right, if you will. That crosses ages, that crosses the regardless of how old we are or young we are, that type of engagement, of trusting, of saying, I want to change and replace this habit and I need your help. I'm asking you to hold me. Can you imagine the power?
How rich that would be that you could allow that to happen. And you think about the relationships from generation to generation, what that would really look like.
Wouldn't it be amazing?
It would be, and is when that happens.
It is.
So,
and it's why this is at the last. It's why we're not talking. You jump into this in the very first of the book. No. You have to do all that work to cross those lines, to learn and ask. You do all that work so that you can now have these accountability type relationships that span generational age groups.
So take us back to the very beginning, like you said, here is the shift that we want you to think about as we finish up today. And that is, we've talked about generational gaps. We've talked about what it looks like and how it happens. But here is the key to shift from just thinking this is a generational gap to going a little deeper and realizing that also, in addition, really, when it boils down, there's a relational gap going on. And so you can make that shift from a generational gap to understanding that there's a relational gap as well.
100%. It is not about age. If you take nothing else away from these 4 series, right? These 4 episodes in this series, at the end of the day, it is not about age. It is about choice. It is about learning. It's about growing. It's about being aware. It's about being adaptable. It's about being uncomfortable and it really is about choice. So it is possible. It is doable. It does mean choosing. It does take work and all those things. But I'm telling you, when we choose to say, I'm going to cross generational lines, I'm going to do that, and then here's how I'm going to do it, the enrichment, the relationships, the benefits that you will receive will be undescribable.
And these little shifts that you make to do this really do make a big difference.
I hope that you have an opportunity to get the book. I hope that you have an opportunity to share it with someone, and that it will truly speak into your life and the lives of those you love and care about and work with. And so only fitting that we should end this episode. We've talked about the shifts. We've talked about how to shift from this to that for our crossing our generational lines. So I have a shift dad joke. Oh, what do you think about that? Are you scared?
We're ready to hear it.
Are you scared? Okay, here we go.
Ready.
All right, Robin's a little nervous, I think. Are you ready? Here we go. This is our dad joke. So, I got fired from the keyboard factory yesterday. I guess I wasn't putting in enough shifts. That is so bad. I even think that one's bad, but I'm so glad you guys laughed, and I hope it brought a chuckle to our listeners. Thank you again for listening to our Relationships podcast. We value you, and we look forward to our next time together. Take care.
Little shifts that make a big difference. RelationShifts. Little shifts that make a big difference.